Hey everybody, it's me, Miss Becky, from Art with Miss Becky. Many of you know me from the art camps that I teach at the Hardin County Public Library, the art camps that I teach at Barnes & Noble Booksellers, or the art articles that I write for the News Enterprise here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Before I moved here and got to do all the cool stuff I get to do for you guys, I lived in another community in Georgia where I was a full-time teacher at a private Christian school. But before I did that, I was actually a homeschooler for 11 years. It was my homeschooling experience that caused me to fall in love with teaching, to eventually go back to school and become a professional teacher. I have to admit to you though, when we began homeschooling, it was under similar circumstances to many of you who are now having to school your kids at home. So with this combined experience of over 20 years teaching experience, I wanted to make my very first art video for you, the parents at home, who have been thrown into the throngs of teaching even though you don't want to. And I thought, okay, what can I do for you? And I thought to myself, here's what I can do. I can make a video with the top 5 things that you can do to make your homeschool or schooling at home experience the most successful that it can be. Tip number 1. Treat your kids' schedule the exact same as if they were actually going to school. Meaning, if you would normally get up around 6 a.m. and eat breakfast, shower, brush their teeth, get dressed, and get ready to go out to the school bus, do the same thing. Keep to that schedule. They're still preparing to go to school, it's just that their school is now at home. Tip number 2, whether you have 1 child or 6 children, when at all possible, have them sit around the same table to do their school, meaning a kitchen table or a dining room table, whatever that be, have them all sit around the table together. It helps you keep track of them, know where they are in their schedule, and you can see what they're doing. Now, having said that, a couple of my friends were stating that that was almost impossible for them to do all the time because their kids needed to do the Zoom training and so forth in another room because their teachers talk really loud. And that's a very good point. However, when they're done doing that Zoom training and they're just working on their regular school, have them all come back together at the kitchen table. That really does help you keep track of them. Tip number 3. If at all possible, keep their schedule, meaning their school schedule, identical to what you're doing at home. What I mean by that is, if they normally take lunch around noon, then break at noon for lunch. If they normally have music or art or PE at a certain time, there are tons of online resources where your kids can go and accomplish those classes if their teachers aren't already giving them links to click. Also, if you need links, let me know and I can send you to some fantastic resources online that would qualify to meet those standards for those classes. But my point is that if they normally have music on Monday, do music on Monday. If they normally have PE on Tuesday, do PE on Tuesday. If they normally have art on Wednesday, the same. Try to keep their schedule as consistent as possible. Children thrive with consistency. Believe it or not, they're just as thrown by all this as we are, and they're looking to us to guide them and to give them reassurance that even though in the midst of all this chaos, that there are some things in their life that are constant that can stay the same. And believe it or not, your schooling is one of them. Tip number 4. Let your little bitty kids, even the ones who are not school age, be a part of the schooling atmosphere. What I mean by this is I've had a couple moms contact me who are taking a parenting class that I'm teaching on post at Fort Knox. And they're telling me via our Zoom session this morning that their 2-year-old is really gumming up the whole learning works. Keeps trying to get in on everybody's stuff and go, I want to do school too, Mom. So I told her, let him do some school. come up with something novel that they can do. Maybe it's a coloring sheet. Maybe they're going to practice their letters. Maybe they're going to sit on your iPad and do a learning game. In any case, allow them to be a part of the learning atmosphere. You know, little kids, they're going to get bored anyway and get down before you know it. So by allowing them to be a part of the learning atmosphere, it gives them something to do and makes them feel like they're a big kid. And lastly, tip number 5. Create a motivational chart and jar for each of your kids. Here's one way you can do this. Give each of your kids either a jar or a can, like a soup can or a small jar, that can hold things such as beans or pennies. And for each thing that they accomplish that day that they do well on and they don't give you a hard time about, for instance, making their bed, they get 3 beans. Coming to breakfast on time, dressed and ready for school, they get 5 beans. Accomplishing math where they don't give you a hard time, 5 beans. Whatever those items are that you're going to be putting in the jar doesn't really matter. But you're going to assign each of the subjects that they work with that day or each of the chores that they have to do a bean or penny amount. And every time they do that with no attitude, with no complaining, and they accomplish it successfully, and the reason why I say successfully is because if they get their math done and they get half wrong, but that's normal for them, give them the amount of beans. Some kids just aren't good at math. I'm just talking about accomplishing their day's worth of schoolwork without giving you a hard time. So make it kind of a competition. So let's say that you guys have 4 kids and you let the kids know the night before, hey, whoever is up, dressed, and ready for school and at the kitchen table first gets 10 beans instead of 5. The second person at the table will get 5 beans, the third person 3, and then the last person at the table gets 1 or none, whatever. You come up with a fair system that you think your kids will work with. And really, part of the fun is coming up with this system with your kids. Like, that's the cool part, because you know what motivates them. The second part of this is to come up with an individualized motivational chart. Not necessarily one for each child, but maybe an entire list for the entire family of things that your kids would normally ask you, hey mom, can I do this? Hey mom, can I have that? And instead of saying yes or no and being the bad guy, instead assign each one of those niceties, one of those fun things, a penny amount or a bean amount. And they can do those things based upon whether or not they have enough beans or pennies in their can to pay for that privilege. The motivational chart and can really did so much for my classroom environment. I was a hero to the kids. I was the fun teacher. Even though I had to be stern sometimes, and even though I had a lot of rules, and to be frank with you, I was really pretty strict. They will tell you that. At the same time, they adored me, and I was their hero because I had fun, cool things in my classroom, such as this. So there you have it. Miss Becky's top 5 tips for schooling your kids at home. I sincerely hope that you found these tips to be useful and encouraging. I'm really excited about beginning my live online art series on Friday, April 3rd. I'm planning, I'm getting ready, I'm excited, I hope you are too. Until then, be blessed, be awesome, stay sane, and I'll see you later.